Hey everyone, and welcome. When you think of the Great Lakes, you probably picture these vast, powerful, almost ocean-like bodies of water. But what if I told you that beyond those familiar shorelines, these lakes are hiding secrets? Secrets that are way deeper and far older than we ever imagined. Today, we're diving into one of their greatest mysteries.
First thing you have to understand is that to really get the Great Lakes, you have to respect their power. I mean, for centuries, they've been these essential highways for trade. But they are notoriously treacherous. The weather can flip on a dime. One minute it's perfectly calm, and the next, a furious storm is swallowing ships whole, leaving nothing behind but ghost stories.
And the sheer scale of it all, it's just staggering. It's estimated that more than 6,000 ships are lying on the bottom of the Great Lakes. Every single one of them is like a time capsule, a frozen moment from a final, desperate journey. This isn't just a few old wrecks. It's a massive underwater museum of history.
And man, have these wrecks fueled our imagination. We tell stories about ghost ships like the Bannockburn, which just vanished into thin air. People are still searching for Le Griffon, the very first big European ship to be lost out here way back in 1679. We whisper about the strange things that happen in the Lake Michigan Triangle. And of course, there's the heartbreaking story of the Edmund Fitzgerald, a name most of us know from the song. These are the iconic mysteries of the lakes.
Okay, but this is where our story takes a really sharp turn. We're going to move away from those huge steel freighters and all the spooky legends because the most profound secret that's been found so far, it isn't some 1,000-ton ship. It's something so small you could literally hold it in the palm of your hand and not even know it was there.
To find this secret, we need to go back in time. And I mean way back, about 9,000 years. We're heading to a lost world, a landscape that's now buried under hundreds of feet of water at the bottom of Lake Huron. This was once dry land, a place where the earliest people on this continent lived and hunted.
Scientists have a name for this. They call it a paleo-landscape. Basically, right after the last ice age, the Great Lakes were a whole lot smaller than they are today. This meant a huge land bridge was exposed, connecting what's now Michigan and Ontario. And archaeologists figured, hey, if ancient people lived there, the proof would be perfectly preserved down in that cold, fresh water.
And then in 2021, it happened. While exploring this underwater ridge with robots, a team of researchers found it. But it wasn't a spearhead or a piece of pottery. It was two tiny, almost invisible flakes of black stone, something that, at first glance, seemed completely and utterly impossible.
How tiny are we talking? Together, the two flakes weighed a mere 0.08 grams. That's less than a single drop of water. It's a weight that's basically nothing. And yet, the historical weight of this tiny little find is absolutely enormous.
You see, this wasn't just any old rock. It was obsidian, volcanic glass. Ancient toolmakers absolutely love this stuff because you can chip it away to create an edge that's sharper than a surgeon's scalpel. But for archaeologists, obsidian has a kind of superpower. Every single volcano on Earth produces obsidian with its own unique chemical fingerprint. That means they can trace any little piece right back to the exact volcano it came from.
And this is where the mystery just gets mind-bending. There are no volcanoes anywhere near the Great Lakes. Not one. The closest source is thousands of miles away. So the question is, how on earth did a piece of the West Coast end up at the bottom of Lake Huron 9,000 years ago?
The discovery of these two little flakes kicked off an incredible scientific detective story. The mission was crystal clear: trace these artifacts back to their home volcano, and in doing that, map out an ancient connection that nobody, and I mean nobody, even knew existed.
And the answer, when they got it, was just jaw-dropping. As the crow flies, this little piece of obsidian had traveled over 4,000 kilometers. That's nearly 2,500 miles. Just let that sink in for a second. This wasn't a short trip. This was a transcontinental journey across a wild, prehistoric North America.
It's an absolutely astonishing journey. The scientific analysis, that chemical fingerprinting, it traced the flakes from that spot deep in Lake Huron all the way back to a place called the Wagon Tire Obsidian Source in Central Oregon, from the Pacific Northwest all the way to the heart of the Great Lakes. Incredible.
Now, a claim that big, something traveling 4,000 kilometers 9,000 years ago, that needs some serious proof. You can't just throw that out there without backing it up. So how exactly did the scientists crack the code and become so certain?
Well, the process was super careful. First, they did an initial scan using something called X-ray fluorescence, or XRF. That got them close, narrowing it down to 3 possible spots in Central Oregon, but they needed to be 100% sure. So they moved on to a more powerful method, neutron activation analysis.
This let them measure tiny trace elements with amazing precision, and the real smoking gun, an element called barium. Two of the potential sources had about 900 parts per million of it, but the wagon tire source, it had around 1,500, and the Lake Huron flakes, a perfect match. Bingo.
And get this, it wasn't just one lab doing the work. To make absolutely sure there were no mistakes, the results were confirmed by 3 independent labs, and they used 2 different methods to check. The verdict was unanimous. It was conclusive. That stone came from Oregon, no doubt about it.
So why does all this matter? I mean, a tiny 0.08 gram clue, big deal, right? Well, actually, yeah, it's a huge deal. This tiny discovery basically forces us to rewrite our entire understanding of the ancient American world.
You see, for a long time, the old view of North America 9,000 years ago was that it was populated by small, isolated groups of people who kind of kept to themselves. But these little flakes of obsidian, they completely shatter that picture. They are solid proof that vast, sophisticated, continent-spanning trade networks existed. People were connected, they were trading things, and probably ideas, across thousands of miles.
And to really put a fine point on it, a quote from the actual research paper says it all. This find isn't just interesting, it is a legitimate record breaker. It is the earliest and most distant reported occurrence of obsidian ever found in the entire eastern half of North America, period.
And that really brings us full circle, doesn't it? We started with the mysteries of what was lost in the depths, all those great ships and their crews. But this discovery, it shows us that maybe the deepest secrets aren't about loss at all. Maybe they're about connection, ancient pathways that tied a whole continent together long before we ever thought possible.
So it just leaves you with one last thrilling question. If 2 tiny flakes of volcanic glass can completely rewrite our history books, what other secrets, what other lost worlds and forgotten connections are still down there, just waiting to be discovered in the cold, quiet darkness at the bottom of the Great Lakes?